Hello, and welcome to lesson number 3. In lesson number 1, we talked about the human brain and how it functions and how this impacts leadership development. And in lesson number 2, we talked about whether leadership was born or developed in a person and came to the conclusion based on science and history that leadership is definitely something that is developed. So in this lesson, we are going to continue talking about the brain, but now we're going to talk specifically about your brain and not just the brain in general. So what we want to talk about here are things such as self-sabotaging actions that you might be taking, thoughts that limit you, and ways that your personal history have impacted your present day and your future. Okay? So, let's talk about your subconscious again. Remember that 90% of your thinking is subconscious, which means that it is what was programmed into you. And that is something that you need to work with. Anytime that you are learning something new, you are reprogramming your thinking. And if you want lasting results, you are going to continue doing it. Practice makes perfect. And the science behind that is that the neural connections become stronger and stronger the more you do something or the more you believe something, the more you reinforce a thought. Okay? So, for example, a thought goes through your head that one of your earlobes is bigger than the other. And it starts out just a quick thought. And then before you know it, it becomes a major thought, and then it becomes a belief. Two examples of this from television. If you are familiar with the TV show Psych, there is an episode where the crime that they are trying to solve occurs in a plastic surgeon's office. And one of the main characters, Gus, gets told by a doctor in the plastic surgery office that his earlobes are funny. And his earlobes have never bothered him before, but now that someone has said it, he begins thinking about it. And by the time the episode ends, he's signing up for surgery to get his earlobes fixed when there was nothing wrong with his earlobes and he'd never even thought of it before, okay? So the thought became a belief because he kept practicing it. And then there is a Seinfeld episode where Elaine, one of the main characters, her boyfriend breaks up with her. Well, no, she breaks up with him. I'm sorry. She breaks up with him, and he gets really mad about her breaking up, and so he tells her that she has a big head. He's just angry and he spouts it off. It just comes out of his mouth, right? And it's meaningless, right? You have a big head. So what? What does that even mean? But he tells her that, and then through the whole rest of the episode, she keeps practicing that thought over and over again. And by the end of the episode, she believes she has a larger than average head, and she's embarrassed by it. She's wearing hats and she's going like this, and she's ducking down because she doesn't want people to see her huge head. But the thing is, she didn't have a huge head, but it became a belief because she kept practicing the thought over and over again. So what we want to do is pinpoint the beliefs that we have that don't serve us. And we want to replace them with new beliefs. I'm sure that you are very familiar with affirmations. You've heard, I don't know if you've done affirmations, maybe you have a friend who has done them, but you know what they are. They are things like, I am confident, and you just keep saying it over and over again. Well, the point behind an affirmation is to rewire your thinking. So there is science behind it, and affirmations can actually work. The problem is that often people say an affirmation and they don't believe it. And so they'll say it for a little while and then they just toss it out, and then they say, affirmations don't work. I've tried them before. So the thing is, affirmations can work, but they have to become an actual belief. So in the examples that I just gave you, if Gus had simply said, I've never had a problem with my earlobes, I'm not gonna give that another thought. If he had just let it go, it would have died out. And if he had said, over and over again, I do have big earlobes, but he hadn't believed it. He hadn't put the emotion into it. But see, in both of these stories, what happened is it triggered something in these characters, something emotional. So if you can't make that connection to an affirmation, that affirmation is not going to work. So often, if, let's say, you don't have enough money to pay your rent, and you start saying the affirmation, I have money, I have money, I have money, often that just goes off into outer space and it doesn't do anything. But if you break it down into steps, that's a whole different story. For example, and I'll share something from my own life. When I had a very difficult financial situation due to some business challenges, I started saying to myself, I've gotten through this kind of thing before, I can get through it again. And I honestly believed that because I had gotten through difficult times before. So I started off with that. And then as I started to feel better, okay, yes, I've gotten through these situations before. Then I could add to it, actually, money does come when I need it. So I was able to build up to a point where I was able to say, money is a wonderful subject and I am able to attract lots of money. As I was able to say it and believe it, I was able to live it. So the same is true here. We're talking about leadership skills. So you might start out by, your whole childhood, people told you were never going to be a leader, or they told you that you lacked this quality or that quality. And so you believed them. It connected with you. You can start to turn that around by knowing, first of all, what that thought is. Therefore, when you are going through your everyday actions, you can stop yourself and say, hold it. Why do I always say I wasn't born to be a leader? Why do I always say I'm too old to learn about business? Why do I say these things? They're not true. They're really not true. I had a friend just the other day say to me, I'm not a business person, so I don't need leadership skills. And I said to her, what makes you think you're not a business person? And she says, oh, well, I just wasn't gifted in that area. That's not how it works. If you believe you have the capacity to be a business person, you will become one. If you believe you do not have that capacity, then you do not have that capacity and you won't go on to do that. So that's the first step, becoming aware of these beliefs. What do you believe about yourself? And then the next step is to begin looking at new thought patterns that you want to embrace. And if those new patterns are too far out, they're just too lofty for you to really connect with, then you need to break it down and take a few steps to get there. For example, if you really don't lack confidence when you're in a social situation, saying over and over to yourself, I am confident, probably is not going to work. But saying to yourself, I have mastered confidence in this other situation, so there's no reason I can't master it in this situation. That's a good start. Then you've got something you're connecting with, you're building onto, and you're moving towards. All right, then the other thing I want to talk about is self-sabotage. People sabotage themselves. Why? Well, it is your brain trying to keep you safe and consistent. Okay? Safe and consistent. That is your brain's job. And it is going to do that job no matter what you try to change about your life. It has one goal. So here's the thing, going back to your subconscious programming. If in third grade you got up on a stage to give a speech and you said it wrong and everybody laughed at you, now your brain has that program. It says, okay, being up on a stage was a bad thing. So I have to keep us off that stage. So your brain, in an effort to keep you safe, consistent, moving forward in survival mode, it will start helping you to sabotage yourself so that you never have to go up on stage again. So an example I can give you of this is I worked with this woman who was trying very hard to win an award in the company, and she was doing very well at it until it was announced that whoever won this award would then be giving the keynote address at the company's annual retreat. Suddenly, she started making all kinds of mistakes. And this was subconscious, folks. It wasn't like she said, oh, I don't want to do that. It's just suddenly she went from being a top contender for this award to being someone who forgot things, who made massive errors, who was uncharacteristically late for work. I mean, things started happening, and she had a really good explanation for why they happened. Oh, my goodness, this happened because the phone rang while I was filling out the form, or I was trying to leave for work and there was traffic. I mean, she had actual reasons. But the reality was she was sabotaging herself because she didn't want to go up on that stage. So if there is something that consciously you want, but you can't quite seem to get there, you need to start asking yourself, what is happening in my life that I might want to avoid, that I might be afraid of, so I'm sabotaging myself? If you're not familiar with the book Excuses Be Gone by Dr. Wayne Dyer, I strongly recommend that one because he pulls no punches. He is right in there saying there is no reason you aren't whatever it is that you want to become. There's no reason you aren't a leader. There's no reason you aren't successful at X and Y. There's no reason at all other than you are stopping yourself. And in one of his seminars, I heard him say that it's like driving with one foot on the gas and one foot on the brake. You've got your feet on both, so the car goes and stops and goes and stops, and it never manages to get to its destination. So if you find yourself coming up with all kinds of excuses for why you're not a leader, it's time for you to examine what's going on in your subconscious programming. What is it about leadership that you are trying to avoid, and therefore you have all of these excuses? Because it's not about being born as a leader, and it's not that you don't have the opportunity to become a leader. You do. You can become a leader, a wonderful, magnificent, amazing leader. So, in the words of Dr. Dyer, excuses be gone. And then one final thing that I want to mention to you, and I mentioned it in the lesson where we talked about the human brain and leadership, and that is the word addiction, being addicted. You are addicted to being the way you are right this minute. You may want to make some changes on a conscious level, but on a subconscious level, even if you are miserable in your life, the reason your life continues to be perpetuated that way is because you are addicted. You feel like yourself when you feel stuck, when people are criticizing you, when you have a bad relationship. That is you feeling like the you that has developed over all these years. So, as you are moving towards becoming a leader and getting other things in your life in order, relationships, your career, your finances, you need to be alert to how you are feeling and what you are thinking. Feelings lie, ladies and gentlemen. Feelings lie. So be alert that when you say, I'm going to be more confident, and you start trying to adopt these new thoughts, that your brain is going to be pushing on those brakes pretty hard and saying, what are we doing? What is going on here? Because remember, you have created neural pathways in your brain, and they are fighting for survival. When you abandon one belief for another one, that initial belief is going to fight for its life. So you are going to have days where you're not going to feel like you're on top of your game. And you're going to think, why am I even trying to do this? This is ridiculous. This isn't me. It's the addiction talking. It's not you talking. And so that's when you all the more have to say, you know what? I am committed to being this leader. I am committed to improving my finances. I am committed to improving my relationship status. I'm going to get out of this relationship that doesn't work for me. I'm going to get into one that does. Because we just become comfortable with these bad, negative situations, and we start to sabotage ourselves. So, we're talking about this in terms of leadership because you want to develop these new leadership traits. You can do it. You have to be committed. You have to be committed and say, I'm going to see this through. And above all else, have a vision of yourself as the leader that you want to become. And fake it till you make it. Keep practicing every day. Eventually, the one set of neural connections will die off and the other set will become stronger, and then your brain will be working with you, for you. You will continue to grow as a leader. But you have to get through that withdrawal phase, and it can be challenging. So in this lesson, just like the other lessons, we have a written lecture, some suggested readings, an activity for you to do, a discussion forum for you, and a journal entry. Remember that the journal entries are your personal and private property, okay? We don't have you put them on the website in the class because we want you to be honest with yourself and we want it to be a tool for you. So write it in a notebook, put it on your PC, whatever works for you, but keep it private so that you can be honest with yourself. And in the discussion forum, we've given you a discussion prompt. Make sure you stay focused on that and interact with other statements that are up there, other students who have posted things. Feel free to interact with them and have a conversation. So thank you for joining me, and I wish you great success as you are working with your brain.